As you all know, social media has really opened up opportunities for tremendous amounts of businesses, not just the social media businesses, but influencers and a whole, it's really become an ecosystem of it, in and of itself. And what I find fascinating, Malik, is you have gone through this journey of media and ended up at Pinterest. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got here. Let's take our time and talk about all the different stops you made.
Yeah. So happy to, and really happy to be here and be back at my home, UCLA Anderson. So thank you for having me. And let's rewind back to the beginning. So I'm originally from New York. I'm from the Bronx, New York, and growing up, Bronx. All right, there we go. Growing up, I had a lot of interests. Two loves. One was technology and the other was storytelling. And back, in the day, I remember my mom bought me this Commodore 64 that was like the home
Wow,
computer.
that was pretty early.
and really
you're
early.
dating yourself here.
I'm dating myself, I am. And I spent a lot of time doing basic programming, making games, making stories. And then I also had access to, when I went to high school, video cameras, and this is back when they were, not phones, and really leaned into storytelling and short films. And YouTube was far from being born. The internet
was MTV.
There was MTV, and I've just always had this interest of, or in that intersection between technology and storytelling and how the two can amplify each other. So then, flash forward, over the years, I moved into advertising. I worked in Madison Avenue, which was the storytelling of product, and then moved out to LA to come to UCLA and to really move deeper into the storytelling kind of ecosystem back then, and had a range of different roles at different Hollywood studios, MGM to Lionsgate to Paramount, doing everything from acquisitions and leading acquisition areas where we would go out, meet with filmmakers, buy movies and catalogs, to Paramount, where I was part of a division that was really in a lot of ways at the beginning of bona fide digital distribution. Netflix had just started moving from mail to streaming. iTunes had just started renting and selling movies. So it was a bit of a wild, wild west then, and really had a great opportunity to be one of the shapers in that sort of arena as the technology became more able to deliver content to people. And then I moved to YouTube to do a few things to help bring Hollywood together with Silicon Valley through.
That's almost impossible.
But it was actually, I think my main title at the beginning was diplomat. Because at that time, the two weren't, talking as much, or
they were talking across each other.
Exactly. And a lot of what the teams did was get people to talk to each other. There was more in common than not. There was more to build on and expand than not. And then had an opportunity to move into creators and influencers, and this was at the beginning of the sort of transition from creators being hobbyists to really building bona fide businesses that were thriving and that thrive on platforms like YouTube, on platforms like Pinterest. So had a real opportunity to be part of that growth. But I rewind it all back to those two loves. I had no idea what Silicon Valley was, no idea what Hollywood was, but somehow have stayed on that sort of border.
So it's amazing to see someone who's passionate at that age actually be able to do what they really want to do, and that's wonderful. Let's talk about Pinterest.
Yeah.
How many people here actually use Pinterest?
All right.
How many people here don't use Pinterest? There's a few. So let's start with, what is Pinterest?
So Pinterest is an online open platform, a very visual platform where people share inspiration, ideas, and help to turn those ideas into reality, into realization. So if you're doing a home remodel, you come to Pinterest to get ideas to create your own boards of images that you like, videos that you like that inspire what you're doing. And the creators and pinners, we call them, on Pinners help those users to really turn those ideas into real life.
Right.
So it's a very much a visual platform. It's a platform based in intent. Sometimes it gets painted with the brush of social media, and there's some elements of that, but it's really personal media.
Well, it was interesting. I Googled it this morning.
Yeah.
And said, what is Pinterest?
What did it say?
There were two very different. One said it's a visual search company. The other one said it's a social media company.
Yeah.
So the two Google responses, I can't recall who it was. So it really is a combination of those.
Yeah, it's a combination because people do connect, but I think that what people connect most with is their inspiration and their ideas, and take that and turn that into real life. We call it, and it is the positive corner of the internet. And there was a survey done, I think it was last year actually, by Insider Intelligence that showed that Pinterest is the number one most trusted platform across a lot of different dimensions, but also across 8 different platforms. So it's really designed for positivity.
Yeah, just ahead of Truth Social, right? So we're here talking about technology and media, of course. Let's talk a little bit about what technology is driving Pinterest, because we've talked a little bit about visual search, but let's go into some of the different technologies of what's important. Maybe we can just start with the algorithm of what you actually put together and what you call that and how it's been developed over the years.
I think that when I think about Pinterest and how it differs from other platforms and experiences out there, there are really like three areas that I think stand out. One is that intent. People don't come to Pinterest sort of passively, they come to do. The other is positivity and inspiration. And I think that, when I was outside looking in, I was fascinated around how can an open platform have such a positive ethos and give off such sort of an inspirational aura in a way. And when I got in, because it's also the mission, it's the foundational principles, but how?
Right, and that's what I'm trying to get into, because the technology is helping that.
It's one thing to have it on the mission, but it's another thing to have it on the mathematics. So when you look at the mathematics of the system, like how it's designed, how the algorithms are tuned, how the algorithms are taught, the system prioritizes time well spent over time just spent. If there's a crossroads,
how do you know the difference?
Through different signals. One significant signal is on Pinterest we have something called saves. So it's not a like. It's if you hit that save button, right, you're saving it to your board. You're saving it to you're kind of putting it as something that when you think about the things in life that you want to save, the things that you want to come back to. So when you hit that save button, you're really saying that this is important to me in a deeper way, and it's more potent than a like. It's more long lasting, right, than an ephemeral, pure view. So we take in those signals and other signals as well to really determine if you're coming and searching for something. The system has choices, like what am I going to surface for you, the user? Well, it could surface something that may get seen a lot more, but may not leave you feeling good, may be ephemeral and forgettable. Or it can surface something that is a view that may not be viewed as much as this other thing, but will have a more of a significance in your life. So we choose that, and our mathematics of the system chooses that. And I believe that algorithms just don't happen. Algorithms are a choice. And our foundational principles really in those tiebreaker moments and just how the curve is bent on Pinterest, it really goes in that direction. And I think it's a profound thing because I think that one of the challenges of social media is that, oftentimes systems aren't tuned for that. They're tuned for more, regardless of the significance in life. And sometimes you see a spiral. So it's also from a monetization standpoint, an advertiser standpoint. We're an ad-supported platform. Brands want more significance over more ephemeral. So there's also ties there. And I'm like from a pure business case standpoint, I think it's a really important and beautiful, but like important thing that you can have a system, a setup, a company that is tuned to do good. And because of that, it does well. Like the two aren't at odds. Like that is the foundational principle.
That's the holy grail.
That's the holy grail.
You've got something going very well.
By the way, it isn't perfect. I don't want to, put
So let's talk about perfection.
Yeah.
I mean, because technology is continuing, and you're using machine learning to make that algorithm better and better. Talk a little bit about how that has been improved over the years, or the months, or the days. Is this something just constant improvement, constant changing? And how within the company do you talk about that?
Sure.
Or do you manage that?
It's constantly improving. It's constantly evolving, even more so, because the ecosystem is constantly evolving. Right. Users are constantly evolving. Content and creators are constantly evolving. There's always new trends. And I think back, not only to my Pinterest experience, but, being at YouTube for 11 years, the open platforms live in the world, and the world has stuff. The world has good stuff. The world has bad stuff.
We're going to get on that. We'll put a pin on that and come back to that, okay?
And because of, the non-static nature of the ecosystem, let's call it, there's a certain vigilance that has to be maintained. So, on the one end of the spectrum, there's investments in trust and safety. Right. That we really focus a lot on. Teams who are constantly not only tuning the algorithms, but who are scouting for bad actors, for bad content, for trends that may crop up. So that there's definitely cross platforms of vigilance that I've been so impressed really by the trust and safety function. I think it's one of the things that in the spaces that we're in, we don't laud it enough, and we don't talk about it enough, but
we are right now.
But yeah, that's right. So I think on the one hand, it's like defense, like making sure that's like strong.
Let's keep going into that. How much of that is technology or just people? I mean, Facebook had, 10,000 people staring at videos, many of them having mental problems afterwards because it's pretty awful. Yeah. How automated is your curation or is your moderation, which is what I think it's more called? And is it a ton of people, or is it they're surfacing in a few people?
It's a combination. It's a combination of human and machine. There's no way to do it one or the other. And that goes for, I think, a lot of the different aspects, whether it's like defense or whether it's what you more proactively surface. Like you really need a combination.
But they're surfacing photos, videos, which could have a lot of different things. But you're also a social network, so people can communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. So do you have to moderate those communications? Do you have to see what people are talking about?
It is all forms of content. So whether it's image, video, text, bullying, from one user to the next. All forms of content really need all forms of sort of moderation in a way, or sort of caretaking. So whether it's the machines, there's no way to do it without scaled systems. On a platform like Pinterest is 400 million monthly
400 million monthly users.
Monthly active users.
400 million.
So
quite a few people.
It's a lot of people, and it's a lot of creators who serve those people, and the people share with people. So you really need scaled systems to do that, but you also need humans who really steer the scaled systems, who are able to navigate and monitor in large swaths, but then also be able to zoom in and see, hey, we have an issue here. One way I think about it was, at the airport, a few years ago, and I was like, wait, this is like kind of what we do. It's like you're going from like one gate to the next, to the next. Now you can use the roving floor, escalator thing that goes side to side. That's going to speed you up. There are moments where you need to get off of that moving floor and see, is that my gate or not? Is there an issue or not? Okay, let me get back on it. And I think that the combination of human and machine is really, really important. And we're talking about, more right now on the trust and safety side, but I also think that it's important on the, what does your system surface for people, right? So, when I described how Pinterest, might choose, the system might choose a piece of content that a person is searching for. Is it going to be, video or image 1, 2, 3, or 4? Like, what's the selection process that the system takes? The way that it gets to that decision is actually through the training of the models by humans. And the way that humans train the model is through usage, behavior. I think one unique thing about Pinterest is that it's really the only human user curation platform. So, but what I mean by that is it's the only platform where you can pin content from the open web onto your board. You can pin content from Pinterest onto your board, where you can basically create a portfolio of ideas from disparate places. Mm-hmm. Now, when you and I do that, everyone here and millions of people, we're also sharing, hey, you know what? Those shoes go with that dress, goes with that accessory. Mm-hmm. And that's, information that helps to make the systems better and better, and helps to really, train the systems to be more valuable for people also.
Since we're really talking about social media, I'm going to diverge just a little bit and talk about how you're different from others. Yeah. And let's speak just a little bit about Twitter. It's in the news so much. What do you think about their challenges of moderation, Musk getting rid of the team? Do you think that's just is it going to work by just letting the community decide what they want and what they don't want, and so be it? Or do you think that that's going toward a trouble?
I don't have a real sense of, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot. That's a lot. That's a loaded question.
Right. And I'm not there, not in a position to really have thorough points of.
You're a very smart guy with an opinion too, I see.
But I will say that being able to have a safe place for users is just like critical.
It's
The internet, as we all know, can be a really, really like gnarly place. And I think that whether you're a creator, a user, a brand, an advertiser, there's a real desire for places to trade ideas, for places for debate, for places where you can have cleaner streets for folks to engage, where it doesn't lead to harm. And I say that, at an industry level. Like, I think that there's a need. I'm
true in the metaverse, but it's also true in person. We want to go places that we feel safe and we can have a good dialogue around.
And where people can grow and be enriched.
It's like this room, right?
Exactly. Like I'm probably the most important thing I am is a dad. And I'm a dad of
how many children?
3.
Oh.
2 teenagers, one now, a little older than a teenager, 20. And, social media has, been a challenge. It's also been an opportunity. Like there's, it's not one story, but I've definitely personally have, especially through the pandemic, dealt with some of the downsides, which is one of the reasons I was, really happy to become part of the Pinterest team, because Pinterest is really, really designed to address a healthier way of having systems and.
So how long ago did you join Pinterest?
About a year ago, little over a year ago.
Literally during the pandemic, because
That's right.
It was still going on.
Yeah.
So you saw it in your children, and you had the opportunity to join Pinterest, and you said, "This makes a ton of sense for me."
Yeah,
that's great. It's amazing how much the kids can teach you too, right?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them. They are my source of.
Yes. I understand. Let's go back to Pinterest a bit. I mean, in technology, we've talked quite a bit about curation, and we're going to get into the use of artificial intelligence. But I want to talk a little bit about AR. Pinterest uses augmented reality. Explain a little bit and tell us, how's it working? How's it going? Because that's a huge hype, but kind of, a little bit of question about where is it going or what it is. So give us a little.
Yeah, it's going well for us.
Why don't we talk about what they do?
Yeah.
What you do? I don't use it very much. I'm not very much into lipstick.
Right. So we have AR try-on within Pinterest, where a person can do a couple of things. Not only lipstick, you can visualize. Pinterest is very much a visual engine. You can visualize makeup on you. You can visualize, hey, you know what, here's a chair from this manufacturer or retailer, and here's my room, and here's how the chair can look in the room. So given how visual and how much of an idea platform Pinterest is, we've introduced AR try-on and different sorts of AR mechanisms inside of Pinterest, and it's going well. I think that there's still more to do. There's still more to unlock there, but so far so good.
We talked earlier about the advertising being the general engine of Pinterest, but you also have shopping.
Yeah.
How important is the AR to your shopping experience? Do people say, gee, I like that chair in that room, or I create my room and I put that chair in?
Yeah.
Does that help, or do you notice can you measure that impact?
I don't have like a top of mind stat around.
Or just in general?
In general, it's important for the experience, the shopping experience.
Right.
I would say there's a lot more potential there.
All right.
About 6 months ago, we bought a company called The Yes, which is
get right into that.
which is very steeped in shopping and AI, and the whole it uses AI as an engine to really help and assist shoppers in finding what works and looks right on them. So we've integrated them into Pinterest as well. So there's a lot of focus there. But I will say, shopping in general, given how much of an intent platform Pinterest is, when there's ads on Pinterest, it really feels like content because 53% of the Pinterest users see Pinterest as a place for shopping. So there's a lot of
53%. Wow.
So there's a lot of alignment there.
But shopping hasn't really taken off. Where are China? It's just enormous on the internet. It's just instantaneous shopping, mainly off of TikTok, from what I understand. Why do you think that it's so huge in China and it hasn't come here? Is it, we haven't got the algorithms right yet, because that's what TikTok does well? Or do you think it's a cultural, or do you have a point of view there? Or do you think it's just coming?
I'm not sure why we're not seeing what we're seeing in China one-to-one, but I think it's less about how do we replicate a certain type of success, and more about how do we design our own success story, and also with differences across platforms as well. So for example, on Pinterest we've launched Pinterest TV about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more, and Pinterest TV is really our like one of our deeper experiences or experiments in shopping, live shopping specifically.
Live shopping.
So
I didn't know that.
Daily there is live shopping content from creators who talk directly to the camera, and they're authentic, really personal shoppers who they're so authentic, and you want to walk in their footsteps. So it's a different type of shopping, and we're seeing like really, really good results. It still is early, but I think that across the industry we'll see more.
There used to be a cable show that did a lot of that. You take it on the internet. So just want to remind everybody for the questions, Slido, we're Innovate #1. So if you want to line up your questions here, because I'm sure we're not going to get into everything here. So we've gone around in circles a little bit. Innovate 1. Okay, there was a hashtag there. So
Innovate 1.
No hashtag. Okay, just Innovate 1. Sorry. Thank you. I'd like to kind of jump back a little bit, and the huge topic now is about generative AI, and you just brought up AI and your acquisition. And let's talk a little bit about generative AI. We may have to talk a little bit. You may have to. I know you're very interested, which is great. So you may talk a little bit about what it is, how it impacts Pinterest. But then let's also talk about just you've been in all these media companies. You have a unique experience having worked at Paramount and YouTube and Lionsgate. And you might have some reflections on what you think it might do for the media world. So let's just start with Pinterest and AI. Well, let's just start with generative AI.
Sure.
Because I remember when I was speaking to you, just like lit up. And I go, all right, let's talk about that, because that's the topic of the day.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating technology. I think we need a quippier term like visual generative, maybe VisGen.
VisGen. But it's not just visual, it's textual too.
Textual as well. And in the last year, we've really had breakthroughs in the ability of systems to generate art, to generate text at such a high level of clarity and focus and I want to say authenticity. But I don't know what that means anymore.
That's a little scary.
but it's
try grading somebody's midterm.
That's right. It's exciting.
I got some nervous laughter from my ex-students.
It's exciting, and there's also challenges that come with it. But the way I see it is that it's a new tool. And it's a new tool that we have to get our arms around. It's a new tool that can truly supercharge and superpower creativity. I think that when I think of like society and, you know, the split between consumers and creators, you know, the people who, you know, give the content to the consumers, I think that over time we've seen that more consumers of content become creators of content.
Right.
This happened probably with the printing press and then the internet. And now this is almost like as far out as we can go. Where
but it's always been in social media, a very small percentage of the users are the content creators.
That's right.
So do you feel that that's going to democratize?
I think that it does. I think that every human is a natural born creator. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about these technologies is because what I think it does is it can help to unleash that even more. And then for the creators, like who have traditionally been creators as a craft, I actually like truly believe that the paintbrush and the canvas in their hands becomes even more supercharged. So I think that we're either on or in right now or on the verge of the Cambrian explosion of content that, like, you know, I've not seen in my lifetime, don't think anyone here has seen in their lifetime. We may not see, like, this may be a tipping point. So what does then that mean? You know, where does that take us? Curation, I think, becomes really important. You know, if the you know, there's going to be multiples of content. I didn't say it's all great content, but there's going to be now a lot more. How do you bubble up the best? How do you, you know, curate? I think Pinterest being like a curation platform is in a really good position here. But broadly, I think that there will be new companies, new industries that bubble up. And, you know, there's always like, well, what's the hype to reality sort of ratio? And I think that this is one of those like few things where the hype is here, but the reality is actually above.
Well, let's keep going on this because I think this is one of the most fascinating things that's going on right now. Coming back to within Pinterest, though, can you speak about where some of this is actually really impacting your business and where you're investing right now, or you're really excited about doing something that can actually supercharge you?
I mean, it's early in the space.
It's very early. I mean, well, how many people out here have actually experimented with something around generative AI within the visual? Wow, this is a crowd that came to talk to you. All right, so can you give an example of where?
Sure. Well, I would say some of the underlying technology that you see in that, like what we talked about with AR, try-on, and some of the visual rendering that we do within Pinterest.
It's a form of that, right?
It's a form of that. It pulls on that. Pinterest being a place of images and video from the web and also uploaded directly to Pinterest, like just organically. Like I was searching yesterday and found a lot of beautiful content created by creators who are using these different platforms. And
so it may be authentic and it may not be. You know, the platforms could have created it out of whole cloth. Does that matter?
I do think that it matters that there's a creator using tools behind it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So there's somebody creatively saying, this is what I want.
That's right.
And whether it's actual or it's been...
Well, some of the best like visual generative content I've seen comes from creators who have just been, you know, artists who are able, and also interestingly enough, like writers as well, who are able to match make visual descriptions with visuals and then, you know, sort of paint over that and edit and like I think some of the best work that we'll see out of this is not, hey, just give me that, point, that. It's iterative. It's human and machine. I've done a lot of personal playing around.
I'm sure you have, well, with your kids. Yeah, right.
With my kids, but I also, I enjoy writing.
Right.
I like, not suggesting anyone get it, but like two children's book and a sci-fi novel, and I've actually like gone into Chat GPT-3 and said, you know what, I've had this idea for a follow-up to this children's book. Let me see what happens if I go in and I use it as my writing partner. And spent a few hours going back and forth and shaping, and I'm like, not about to publish it, but I'm like not at some point going.
So you found the editing. It was a tool to help you to generate ideas.
I found that it helped me with some broad strokes.
Right.
I found that it helped me get to places that probably would have gotten to,
right.
But it accelerated.
That's extraordinarily important
there
for storytelling.
And
to a point you didn't think you were going to get to.
But then I also found that like there was some, at least right now, there was some pockets where it wasn't going to unpack it more. It wasn't going to do something fantastical. Mm-hmm. And we went back and forth. And the work product is my work product. And I did it as a test. But I think it can be really, really wonderful. And I also think that we have to empower and honor creators in all of that. And I think that that's going to be really critical.
So the reality is greater than the hype. So let's shift subjects. I could talk forever with you. I hope I can. By the way, yes. I'm going to get you into my class. So
I would love it.
I see some of my students grinning up there. Leadership. Talk a little bit about how you see leadership in your team in terms of what's really important to you, and what do you think about as you start the year with your team and saying, how do I get them from here to there?
I think a lot about like service. I serve my team.
Service.
I happen to be in a seat that gives me perspective that may be a little bit, bird's eye. Mm-hmm. And it's my responsibility and my honor to be able to have a perspective that can help to coach individuals, that can help to align processes and teams, and so I really see service, like how can I help to inspire that growth development, but I don't see the bird's eye view as like a hierarchical, like here's where I'm at. I think that the other thing I think a lot about, the other word, if service is one, the other word is humility. And I think that is really, really, especially in technology, like this is not the conversation we would have had even last year. And it won't be the conversation we'll have next year. So if you're not humble that like you actually don't know what's gonna happen, mm-hmm. like everything I've said, like these are just my ideas. Like your ideas, everybody's ideas are like, everyone has just as much of a, shot at getting it right. And no one will. It's just the matter of, degree of how wrong will be. And I think that when you come to it with that honesty in a collective, then, it can help to set the right tone.
So you've been in an interesting time at Pinterest where you have a new CEO coming.
Yes.
How's that worked out? How did that change in terms of first of all, the company, but then about personally to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really wonderful. The former CEO, co-founder was and is, just a wonderful person. Like the DNA, the ethos, that Pinterest is the positive corner of the internet, like comes from that building. And the new CEO, Bill Reddy, walks in that, those shoes, walks in that spirit. and then just as a partner with all his teams, executes in that spirit at real scale. And I think he's a real great study of some of the things that I just talked about. A great balance of point of view, very clear, clarifying, strong points of view, and humility. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you hear that, and it's like, well, that's at odds. Like, how can you, be open-minded and strong point of view? And I think that, leaders like him and others, and how I try to operate, strike that balance, or try to strike that balance in a real way that gives teams and individuals like comfort and space and the safety to operate, the safety to make mistakes. Like when I share with my teams, like, I don't know, like, let's like get into it, figure it out, then everyone feels maybe, hopefully, I don't know, like I think, but hopefully like
I'm sure they do.
a little more empowered to go out on that limb, because like where the real change and innovation will come is not like close to the tree, it's like out on the limb. Mm-hmm. And then that out on the limb becomes like the new norm. But sometimes the limb breaks, and you have to celebrate it all.
Yeah, and you can't, it's amazing what you're saying, because I would say that was the secret of Disney in the 80s, mm-hmm. when Michael Eisner and Frank Wells came in. They just brought in a lot of very smart people and told them to take risks. Yeah. And nobody condemned when you failed, unless it was really stupid, of course.
Right.
Career advice.
I want to interview you, by the way. Like you're
Give a little career advice to these young gentlemen out and women out here too, and I'm going to look at the Slido and see if anybody's asked a question. All right. If you had some career advice to people going into technology or wanting to be in technology, what would you look for in the first or second job?
I would look for opportunities that, I'll say two things. One, I would look for opportunities that really allow as much sort of breadth as possible to try things, to not hit walls where it's like, no, you can't do that. Places and opportunities that have that kind of flex of being able to, like a certain like receptiveness to trying things. And I've in my career I've been at places where that's like a thing, and places where that's not a thing. And generally speaking, in the places where like it's a thing, I've been able to learn more.
Right.
And then the other thing I would say is look for discomfort. Like look for opportunities that make you uncomfortable. And I don't mean like professional opportunities, or it could be that, or job opportunities. But look for like moments, instances, opportunities where, like, oftentimes when I came to Anderson, I really wanted to take classes that were like really different from, like, I was coming from advertising then, so I wanted to go deeper into stats, because undergrad I was like African American studies and film studies. Yeah. And that's pretty liberal arts. So I wanted to go.
Stats were not comfortable.
No, it was not comfortable. And guess what? I realized I love stats. Like I realized that like there's like it actually inspired my interest in machine learning. I would later on like take some class in machine learning 101 like a couple years ago when I was working, and got me deeper in and understanding things. But if it wasn't for like crossing that bridge of make yourself uncomfortable. And by the way, like, it was painful, but that's part of discomfort. But then everything uncomfortable becomes comfortable.
It's where you learn.
It's where you learn.
So the most popular question: what's the biggest fire you've had to put out, crisis you've had to resolve as the chief content officer at Pinterest? It's only been a year.
I'm going to take the liberty and maybe expand that some more.
Okay, please.
Because I've been at Pinterest for a year. Prior to Pinterest, I was in leadership content roles, and there was a time when I was at YouTube where we had some like really significant content safety escalations,
Right.
which really shifted a lot of perspective, even some of my perspective around the importance and value of openness, but then also the challenges with openness. Like the whole reason why I wanted to work in the online space is streaming became more capable there, was because when I was at the studios, and I loved my time, I loved storytellers, filmmakers, but I also had this realization that not all the stories can get told by this system. And there was a certain amount of democratization of storytelling that the internet brought to everyone. And that's why I got in, because I want stories to be told, and there's so much diversity, and also traditional systems don't always embrace the diversity and the reality of the world. But then I also realized that same openness can be weaponized for harm.
Right.
So how do you honor the whole purpose of and reason for the internet, and it started as a thing that was supposed to bring us all together and information and sharing, and then the downsides came. So how do you strike that balance where you can honor the upside and mitigate the downside?
And you were in the middle of that at YouTube then.
As many were everybody was.
Yeah, everybody was, but
of it, but and I was also leading. One area was kids and family, where the stakes are even higher because you have a very vulnerable, impressionable audience. So navigating through that and aggressively focused on doing the right thing. As sometimes there's elements that don't want to do the right thing, but you're ultimately responsible. It doesn't make a difference that it's them. So that was a really good challenge.
Let's go to the second question. Yeah. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to knock somebody over there. But what are some of the major? No, what's this one? It actually changed while you were talking. A whole bunch of other questions came in.
Everybody changed their mind.
We got the higher priority one here. It says, what are some of the major customer segments you see that use Pinterest, and are you focused on any particular segment?
Sure. There's a lot of great segments. I would say, food, beverage, home, in terms of vertical categories, education, learning, because it's such an active platform where when a pinner, our users come through the front doors of Pinterest, they're coming to do something. So the whole nature of the platform maps to that and honors that. So categories like home, food, beverage, positive categories like inspirational quotes is massive.
Right.
On Pinterest, people come for that type of inspiration and uplifting as well. It's very much a women focused.
I know. I saw pearls in Pinterest at my home. It's very dangerous.
and it's such an important audience and category that brands, pinners are looking to connect with. And then Gen Z is our fastest growing audience on the platform as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
24.
Are you prioritizing short form video over static photos, or is it just Is there a prioritization or not? That's the next question.
You know what? The prioritization is what the pinner wants. So we map to their interests. So we try not to bend the curve and say, okay, now we're going all in this format, or now we're going all in this format. I think that the beautiful thing about Pinterest is that it all weaves together for the user's use case. So if you are looking for, like, let's say, a recipe, images may be the beginning point. Like you may quickly scroll through, casseroles and see, almost like a dashboard of a lot of different options, but then you click into one, and then it's a video that shows you how to make that dish that takes you. So the video might be more useful for you for instruction. The photos might be more useful for you for selection and narrowing in.
Right.
With all that said, video is about 10%, a little over 10% of the platform's viewership.
So only 10%.
I would actually say, great, 10%. Like, because a year or two ago it was much smaller, so it's actually
it's growing.
It's growing pretty.
So last question, and we got to wrap it up. Is the question is from Deidre. On Pinterest, you can see TikTok videos from multiple sources. How does Pinterest think about partnerships with companies that look, given some of the trust and safety too, differently?
Sure. So if you see videos or content from other sources like that on Pinterest, like, it's a place of content that is curated from both Pinterest and the web. So there might be a user or a creator who wants to pull together on their portfolio, almost like, or their board is what we call them, a mix of different images and video. I think of it almost like way back in the day. I was a jazz DJ in undergrad on the radio.
He's done everything. Hero, man.
But I'm sharing that to say, like, how I curated my show. Am I gonna, Coltrane, Holiday, David, like, what's the, well, that's what our boards are. Like,
right.
People are remixing, both in order and in how they're juxtapositioned.
So they can pull something off TikTok. They can pull something. And
they it's as long as they have the right and ability to do that, then yes. But we really look at it through.
Well, they're out there doing this to me. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Amazing. Thank you.